What's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I am going to be talking about MX Linux. And I will also discuss why I didn't switch my primary operating system from Ubuntu to MX Linux. So let's get started. So I have downloaded the MX Linux ISO file and I'm going to proceed with installing it within my VirtualBox. So let's open the installer and get started with the installation process. So we'll leave the keyboard setting as default, go next. And we're going to auto install using the entire disk, which is my virtual disk, and go next. Say yes. And just go next from here. Let me name my computer as Montu.mx and I'll just leave my computer domain as montu.com and go next. For the localization settings, I'll just select Australia and Australian English. And for the time zone, I will select Australia and the city I will select as Sydney. And then go next. Default user login, default password. And then I'll specify the root password. So we'll patiently wait for the installation process to finish. Okay, so the installation has now completed and I'll click on finish. And then it will reboot my system. And I'll just press enter to continue. So there we have the login screen. So let's begin by logging in. So first things first, I'm going to proceed by first doing an update of the system. And it shows me that 16 updates are available. So I'm going into the MX updater and I'm going to say upgrade. Enter the root password. Now let's go ahead and have a look at the window manager. So MX Linux by default comes with the Xfce window manager, and here's all the list of programs and the different categories. And it has the settings manager and the lock screen option over here, switch user and logout option. If we look at the launcher panel over here, we can see that there is a clipboard icon over here, and this is the Clip It clipboard manager. And then we have the network, Ethernet network connections and the VPN connection icon. Next we have the power management icon. And then we have the icon to unmount the drives. So next we have the update manager. And it's actually using the Synaptic package manager for doing the updates. And then we have the audio mixer. it's using the ALSA mixer. And then we have the file manager. And this is using the Tuna file manager. And lastly, we have the Firefox browser, which gets installed by default. So moving on, let's have a look at the desktop settings. So I right click on the desktop and go to desktop settings. And I can see there's a whole heap of backgrounds that have been provided. And I could actually change the background automatically and select the duration. And also tick the checkbox for random order. And one of the really good standout features for me with MX Linux is that it's installing the Conky tool by default. Now, those who don't know much about Conky, it's basically a lightweight system monitor. So you can have a look at all your CPU metrics and the system metrics, like the RAM usage, the internet download and upload speed, your disk space usage, and that kind of stuff. And for the people who don't actually like the look of Conky, you can just go into the menu and enable or disable Conky using the Conky toggle option. We also have another tool called Conky Manager, and it will allow you to choose the different widgets and themes for Conky. You also have the ability to select and preview those widgets. And these are some of the widgets that are already available out of the box. And personally, I really like the look and feel of the Conky patch widget. It provides you some really useful information. And with MX Linux, it's also providing one out-of-the-box theme, which is called Tron Legacy. And this is basically packaging the set of wallpapers and widgets together in one theme. I can also right-click on the desktop, and it will present me with an applications menu with the different categories of softwares that are installed. The same thing is also available in the menu bar over here, and I can choose the different categories. If I go into my settings manager and go under appearance, I can see that when I go in settings, there is a window scaling option available, but it only presents me with two options, which is either no scaling or double scaling. And within my settings manager, I also have an option available called MX Tweak. And if I go into MX Tweak and if I go under display, I can see that there are some scaling options available over here as well. In the GTK scaling, I don't have an option to provide a fraction. It only takes a value of 1, 2, 3, and so on. But then I also have another option called X, R, and R scaling. And this actually does have an option to provide a decimal value. But I have tried playing around with this, and this doesn't quite work as well as the fractional scaling that is available in Ubuntu. If I look at my display settings in Ubuntu, the fractional scaling is quite intuitive and very easy to use. I would still say that the fractional scaling is still not 100% perfect in Ubuntu, because when I'm running video playback in full screen mode on my high resolution display, I still experience some issues. Coming back to MX Linux, let's look a bit further in the settings manager. And within the settings manager, there is also an option available called MX Tools. And it's providing a bunch of configuration tools that are very useful. And some of them include the USB Maker, Snapshot, Rescue Scan, Boot Repair. Then there's the driver installers and the codec installers. And of course the Conky tool that we had a look earlier. Date and time settings, system sounds and sound settings. And then there is some tweaks and keyboard settings. And you also have the package installer, repo manager, and some other utilities available. Installing the various software packages in MX Linux is a bit different from how it's actually done in Ubuntu or Linux Mint, for example. There is a tool called MX Package Installer. And once I open that, you will notice that there are different categories of packages that are available. And I can just expand the categories and select the relevant packages that I want to install. And then it will go in and install those. And MX Package Installer also offers Flatpaks. So if I go into the Flatpaks tab, it's saying here, warning, MX Linux includes this repository of Flatpaks for the user's convenience only and is not responsible for the functionality of the individual Flatpaks themselves. So let's close that one. So it's basically populating the repository of Flatpaks from the remote repository called FlatHub. And you can go in and either search for the packages that you want to install, or you can browse through them and then select them to install them. So overall, I would like to say that MX Linux is quite fast and snappy to load because it's a mid-weight distribution. And it's also packaging some of the really good tools that you would need by default. But I'm still not convinced that I should switch the board from Ubuntu to MX Linux. Mainly because of the fractional scaling support that's available in Ubuntu that I couldn't see being available in MX Linux. And also the second thing is that I feel that the GNOME desktop feels far more polished and refined as compared to the Xfce. Also, given the high spec hardware I'm using, my GNOME desktop is running perfectly smooth and I don't have personally any reason to switch back to a mid-weight distribution. So that concludes this video on MX Linux. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks a lot for watching.